The day my grandmother died, I thought the worst part would be losing the only person who ever loved me. I was wrong. The worst part came 3 days later, when the lawyer looked me straight in the eye and said the mountain lodge, the one worth almost $2 million, now belonged to me. And suddenly, the parents who threw me out at 19 were standing on the porch like we were family again. Before we dive in, if you love emotional real-life revenge stories that prove karma always finds its way back, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Trust me, this story only gets crazier. My name is Emilea. I'm 28 years old now, and if you saw my life today, you'd probably think I had always been lucky. But the truth is, at 19, I was sleeping in my car. The people who put me there were my own parents.
Trying to help.
They didn't just kick me out.
We're so proud
They
of
erased
you.
me.
Come here, son.
It started with something stupid. At least, that's what I thought back then. I told them I didn't want to follow the career path they had chosen for me. My dad had already mapped everything out. Law school, internship at his firm, eventually taking over the family business connections. But I wanted something different. I wanted to study environmental design. I wanted to build things that meant something. Sustainable homes. Places people could actually feel safe in. My dad called it a childish fantasy. My mom didn't even look at me during that conversation. She just sat there at the kitchen table stirring her coffee like I wasn't speaking. Then my father said the sentence that changed my life. If you walk away from this family's plan, Emilea, don't expect to be part of this family anymore. I thought he was bluffing. I remember laughing nervously and saying, "Dad, come on." But he wasn't joking. 2 weeks later, my bags were on the front porch. My bank account had been closed. My phone plan canceled. Even the car I drove technically belonged to my dad, so he reported it and had it taken. Just like that, I didn't exist anymore. Except to one person. My grandmother. Grandma Evelyn lived 3 hours away in the mountains in this beautiful old timber lodge she and my grandfather built decades ago. It sat on 20 acres of forest, with huge windows that looked over the valley. When she found out what my parents did, she didn't yell. She just called me and said softly, "Come here, sweetheart." I made too much soup anyway. I still remember pulling into that gravel driveway at midnight, exhausted, terrified, humiliated. She opened the door before I even knocked. And she hugged me so tight I started crying right there on the porch. For the next 9 years, she was my entire family. She let me live in a small guest room while I finished college. She listened to every breakdown, every fear, every moment I thought I wasn't strong enough to survive what my parents did. And every morning she'd pour coffee and say the same thing. "Your life will get bigger than their cruelty. Just wait." I believed her. But I never expected what happened next. 3 months ago, Grandma Evelyn passed away peacefully in her sleep. It shattered me. The house felt empty in a way I can't even explain. Then came the day of the will reading. I sat quietly in the lawyer's office, still numb with grief, when he slid a document across the table. "Ms. Carter," he said gently, "your grandmother left you the mountain lodge and the surrounding property." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" He adjusted his glasses. "The estate appraisal values it at approximately $1.9 million. My hands started shaking. Grandma never told me she planned this. I walked out of that office feeling like the world had tilted sideways. And that same evening, a black SUV pulled into the lodge driveway. I knew that car instantly. My father stepped out first. Then my mother. The two people who hadn't spoken to me in almost a decade were suddenly smiling like proud parents. My mom opened her arms and said, "Emilea, sweetheart, we should talk." And that's when I realized something that made my stomach drop. They didn't come back for me. They came back for the lodge. The moment my mother said, "Emilea, sweetheart, we should talk," something inside me went completely still. Not warm. Not hopeful. Still. Because people don't disappear from your life for 9 years and suddenly show up smiling. Not unless they want something. My dad walked slowly up the porch steps, glancing around the property like a real estate agent doing a private showing. "This place looks even better than I remember," he said, nodding toward the valley. "Your grandmother really kept the land in good condition. Not your grandmother. Not Mom's mother. Just the land." I crossed my arms and leaned against the porch railing. What do you want? My mom sighed like I had hurt her feelings. Emilea, honey, that's not fair. We're your parents. The word parents almost made me laugh. Parents don't erase their children. Parents don't shut off their bank account and leave them with nowhere to go. But I didn't argue. I just watched them. My dad cleared his throat and pulled a folder out of his briefcase. We heard about the will, he said carefully. And while we're happy your grandmother helped you, we should probably discuss the future of this property. There it was. Right on schedule. I tilted my head. The future? Yes, he continued smoothly. A property like this is a big responsibility. Taxes alone will be significant. Maintenance, insurance, staffing. Then he slid the folder toward me. We actually have a developer interested in buying the entire mountain area. Luxury resort project. They're offering around $3 million. $3 million. Almost double the value. My mom smiled like this was a gift. And of course, she added softly, we'd help you manage everything. You're still young. You shouldn't handle something this big alone. That was the moment it hit me. They didn't come here to reconnect. They came here to control it. Just like they tried to control my life when I was 19. I picked up the folder and slowly flipped through the proposal. Architect drawings. Spa buildings. Private cabins. Helicopter landing pad. All built right over the forest my grandparents protected for 50 years. I closed the folder. You're a little late, I said calmly. My dad frowned. Late for what? For the meeting. Silence. Then footsteps behind the screen door. My lawyer stepped onto the porch. Right behind him, a woman in a green Park Service jacket, and a man carrying a stack of official-looking documents. My dad's expression changed instantly. What is this? I looked straight at him. This morning, I said, I signed the final paperwork. The woman from the Park Service smiled politely. Ms. Emilea Carter has donated the entire property to the State Conservation Program. My mother blinked. Donated. The man with the documents nodded. The land will become protected forest. It can never be sold, developed, or commercially used. My dad's face turned red. You gave away a $3 million property? I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. It was never about the money, I said quietly. I looked out across the trees my grandmother loved. This land saved my life when you threw me away. It gave me a home. My voice stayed steady. And now it'll stay exactly the way she wanted it. Forever. My dad looked like he wanted to argue. But legally, there was nothing he could do. They stood there for another minute. Then my mother grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the SUV. No goodbye. No apology. Just silence. And honestly, that was the best closure I could have asked for. Later that evening, I sat on the porch steps with a cup of coffee, just like Grandma and I used to. The valley was glowing gold from the sunset. For the first time in 9 years, I didn't feel like the girl they abandoned. I felt like the woman my grandmother believed I could become. Strong, free, and finally, untouchable. So if you enjoyed this story and believe karma always finds its way back around, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more emotional revenge stories just like this one.